This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
B, I did it for the vagina. That is why I did it.
Welcome into the Practice Squad Live. I do not know what to expect today. It has been, as you can see on your screen, Stroz is not cooperating.
Yeah, it's me.
My broadcast software has taken the personality of Stroz today. I don't know, man. It's just one of those days. You ever have a day where, like, you haven't eaten yet? So I got home, and I don't normally eat before I go to work. I'm not somebody who eats in the morning, as Stroz takes up half the screen now.
I got a big head.
Only your forehead, too. I don't normally eat until I get home from work. But, like, I had something I had to do from, like, the time I got off of work until, like, about a half hour before the podcast. And I was like, I can't eat a snack. Because if I eat a snack, I'm going to be starving on the podcast. But I don't have time to make dinner. So, like, I just said, screw it. I'm just not going to eat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't eat too little, right, when you haven't eaten yet?
I think you need a Snickers bar right now. Hungry, why wait?
Man, I don't want a Snickers. I'm going to go grab a Snickers bar. We're already... Dude, it's been a day. Your face, as anyone watching can see, at some points in the broadcast, it might only take up 10% of the screen. At other times, you might only see Stroz's forehead. If you're lucky, you might even see up his nose. I don't know, man.
Dude, it has been a bit of a arduous journey to get us onto Twitter and onto Periscope.
The most frustrating thing is Stroz can't see me when this is going on. In order for us to do this broadcast, Stroz doesn't get fed my screen. So he can't see, like, all the facial expressions. Like, every 10 minutes, I'm like, almost, dude, almost. We're going to get there.
I just get play-by-play.
You don't get play-by-play. You just get the occasional, like, I swear I'm still alive. If you could see my face, you would know what I'm going through.
I'll let you know. This is what it sounds like. Because I don't know what it looks like, but this is what it sounds like on my end. It's a whole bunch of clicking, and it's a lot of, damn it, come on. What's going on here?
Because
smaller. No, not bigger. Just stay still.
The problem is, I thought I had it figured out. This is a problem I had early on using this program, and it had stopped being an issue. And then all of a sudden today, it popped back up last week, but today it's been a nightmare. I might not even be able to look at the broadcast just to keep my attention away from it. We are going to talk sports, I swear. Although it's not the most heavy sports show we've ever had. With the Tigers draft, earlier this week? I don't even know, man. I don't care about baseball. I just know that. I mean, I care about baseball, not at the moment. I know they drafted.
Torkelson.
I was like,
yep.
I knew it was a T. I was thinking of Turkleton.
We're gonna rename him Big Daddy Torque.
I was thinking of Turkleton. Turkleton from Scrubs.
Mickey Tettleton.
Scrubs. But yeah, they drafted Torkelson. Exciting prospect. But I was talking to my dad on the phone the other day, and the Tigers actually being good isn't anywhere near a reality yet. But I think we could be approaching the time when baseball is fun to watch occasionally. And that's what we kind of want to get a sense of. Is like, how far are we away from the occasional enjoyment of a Tigers game? Because I got to tell you, for me, I haven't enjoyed a Tigers game in at least 3 years, maybe 4. Also, Stroz hates nature. That's not a joke. Like, you might think that tease is like, nah, like Stroz will explain. No, Stroz hates nature. That was his own wording for this topic.
I absolutely hate it, dude.
What,
You're going to find out. Stay tuned for the second segment. It's going to be great. I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to show you if you're watching this video.
What are the worst teams you've ever been a part of? How frustrating were those? But, like, right off the bat, Stroz, how far are you from enjoying an occasional Tigers game? Because I think we might be there soon.
So I need to know how far, and really, truly, it comes down to 2 guys for me, right? This team is, in my enjoyment of watching this team and really being dedicated to the Detroit Tigers, it comes down to 2 players. I need to see when Casey Mize gets called up, and I need to see Riley Green. These are 2 heavy prospects that Detroit invested in heavily in. According to everybody who follows minor league baseball, these guys are the real deal. So once these guys make it to the big show, then I'm going to be invested. Because what that means, it means we're that much closer to getting these young guys who have just been drafted. We're that much closer to them getting called up. I'm really interested to see if they fast-track Torkelson. Because by all accounts, the guy is a heavy hitter. The guy's got a strong swing. He's basically going to be your Miguel Cabrera of the future. At least that's kind of how they're portraying him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him if they fast track him, but really it comes down to Casey Mize and Riley Green for me.
You really sold Riley Green. I don't know that I've seen him sold quite the way that you have. See, I think Casey Mize is the first one, because the problem is with hitters. Like, I don't know. Let's say Riley Green is up on a Matthew Boyd start or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you watching the Tigers game just to watch Riley Green at bat 1 out of every 9 at bats on a team that like we know they're not going to win anything, so we're not worried about the result of the game. In fact, if anything, you probably want them to continue to lose for right now. There's no one else on the field. I don't. There's no current Tigers that you're like interested in. Like, you would really be watching for just Riley Green. So I don't think that does it for me. What I look at when I look at like when am I going to be able to enjoy Tigers games again? It's about these pitchers, and it's because the day Casey Mize comes up, I have a feeling Casey Mize's first start as a Major League Baseball player, whether that's this year, next year, I think it's probably in the next 2 years, right?
You would think.
Whether it's in 2020 or 2021, I have a feeling the day that Casey Mize starts is going to be unlike anything we've had in recent Tigers memory. I mean, there were occasional guys who got starts like that. I remember Jacob Turner being a really exciting guy to see start for the Tigers. But the difference was, at that time, the Tigers were good. So, like, it didn't really matter. Like, you were excited to watch this kid. You were hoping he could be something. Obviously, you ended up trading him, I believe, for Anibal Sanchez. But it didn't really matter. You were going to watch anyways because the Tigers were a good baseball. When Casey Mize comes up, for a lot of us, it's going to be our return to Tigers baseball. That's not to say I haven't watched any game since 2020. But the difference between me watching a game, since 2016, the difference between me watching a baseball game in like 2015, 2014, when they were good, was I was like legitimately focused on the game. If I watched a game in 2018 and 2019, if I watch an average game in 2020, it's background noise. Like, the truth is, I'm not focused for more than probably 10 minutes of a Tigers game right now. The day that Casey Mize starts, I think a lot of us will be tuned in and like paying close attention for every pitch, or close to every pitch. We may not be caring about when the Tigers are up to bat, but we will be paying close attention to when he pitches.
Do you think Casey Mize is, I guess, this generation's Verlander? Because there was a little bit of talk when Verlander was coming up. I remember that 2006 season, he ended up coming up late in the year, I believe, if I remember correctly, because he didn't play the whole season. Yeah, he didn't play the whole season, I know that. But I remember being like, there's something special here about this kid, right? There's something, he's like super talented. When you were wondering what the future held, right? That 2006 team was kind of an aberration because it wasn't supposed to happen that quick, and it happened that quick. I feel like Casey Mize is kind of a more refined Justin Verlander. I feel like Verlander, when he came up, he was very raw. But I think your appointment viewing, where you're like, I've got to sit down and I've got to watch this Tigers game, starts with Casey Mize. When Casey Mize gets called up, you'll be driving home and you're like, oh yeah, Tigers are playing today. And you're like, who's the starting pitcher? And it'll be one of those things where it's like, oh, it's Casey Mize. Cool, I'm turning this on. And you're right. Right now, it is totally background noise. It is just on. And I don't think you want the Tigers to win at all. Maybe be competitive. But the more they lose, the better off they are, because the more number one overall picks they get, or the higher the picks are, the more prospects they get, the better the prospects. And baseball's a complete crapshoot when you go to the draft. Like,
that's the thing.
It is one of those drafts where you miss way more than you actually hit.
I'm hesitant. Like, I think you sell Casey Mize maybe even a little more than I do. Casey Mize will be exciting because the truth is I don't see the Tigers getting good again without hitting on guys like Casey Mize. Like, they're not going to spend their way into being good again.
Oh no, I think you're right there.
Like, I comparing him to Justin Verlander.
The budget, it's going to be like a shoestring budget.
When you ask me if he's this generation's Justin Verlander, I hesitate to go that way. Because I have no reason to like buy into him as I know he's like one of the highest rated prospects in recent memory, but I just can't buy into a Tigers prospect. Who's the last Tigers prospect? Is it Justin Verlander, who ended up even being like, I won't even say Hall of Famer? Who's the last Tigers prospect that ended up being a perennial All-Star, or even made a couple All-Stars?
There's in recent memory, there's really nobody that comes to mind, because the way Dave Dombrowski ran his team, any type of farmhand that he had, he would just trade it away for either a starting pitcher or somebody else.
Go deeper than that, Stroz. Who did they trade that ended up being any? The answer's not nobody, but it's small.
Curtis Granderson, maybe?
No, but they didn't. But by the time they traded Curtis Granderson, we knew he was good. They traded him for Austin Jackson, didn't? And was Max Scherzer part of that?
Yeah.
Was there a pitcher? I feel like there was a pitcher. Part of that.
I don't know. Might have been. Was it Doug Fister, maybe? Or
I don't know.
Might have been Doug Fister. Might have been part of that.
Curtis Granderson at that point was already established. Maybe he got a little bit better in New York, but I think more than anything in New York, he was just a product of a more hitter-friendly ball. If you're watching now, I haven't done the best job. I've still been messing with the broadcast software, paying attention to comments. But if you're watching right now, when do you feel like you'll be able to enjoy Tigers again? And I don't even mean all of them, but I mean some of them. And I think my answer is, if I'm trying to put a year on it, I think my answer is 2021. Maybe.
See, I'm willing to go even further than that. I'm willing to go 2022.
No, because once Casey Mize is here, once Casey Mize is pitching Major League Baseball games, I'll be excited to watch his games. Doesn't mean he'll be any good, but I'll be excited to watch his games. And I can say the same thing about Matt Manning. Who I feel like there's one more high end pitching prospect.
So there's Tarek Skubal. Yeah. He was a guy who was like really, really low. I think it was last year. And then all of a sudden he kind of came on. But I think he was dealing with an injury when, I don't know when they drafted him or when they found him. I'm not sure. It's a weird story with him.
Those three, though, the day that they're pitching, I'm going to be interested. Now, in a regular 2020, I think I would expect to at least get a start out of Mize. I don't think he'd be pitching every day, but I think you'd probably get a spot start out of Mize. I don't know what the hell's happening as far as a baseball season this year, but I can tell you it won't be a full season. I don't think you're probably going to need... I don't think Casey Mize gets a start in a season like this. Unfortunately, I think this season being clearly shortened if we get one, which I think we will, which changed from last week. I don't think you'll see Casey Mize, but I do think by 2021 you'll start to get the occasional Casey Mize appearance. I would say let's pretend 2021 is 162 games. I'm skeptical, but let's pretend it is. I think you will get at least 6 or 7 Casey Mize starts.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot at all.
So I do. Look, he's so when the season for when the minor league season was supposed to start. Remember, you're losing almost an entire minor league season this year because it doesn't sound like the minor leagues aren't going to play. So you're losing an entire season there. That's why I'm willing to go to 2022 with this.
I think he'll definitely start a game in 2021. Whether or not he's pitching multiple games, I think he'll get a major league start in 2021.
I will be invested in this team.
I won't either
until probably 2022.
No. I think 2022 is, if you're talking about investment in a full season, I think 2022 is the earliest. Because if I'm going to be invested on a regular basis, I'm going to need at least 3 to 4 hitters that I care about. So you're talking about Riley Green, who you mentioned, who's at least a few years away. You're probably talking about man, I should have had a list of the Tigers prospects. The shortstop.
So there's Isaac Paredes.
That's who I was thinking of.
So there's Paredes, there's Daz Cameron, who's supposed to be a bomber as well, but he strikes out quite a bit. Daz Cameron, yes, if I believe so, yes. And then I'm trying to think of who else. Jake Rogers, maybe. Willie Castro, he's a shortstop.
That's the thing.
I don't know if he'll be
invested on a consistent basis. I'm going to need at least, I think 3 is the number. If a third of their hitters are guys that I care about, then I could be invested.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. You mentioned all the top 3 and the top 4. And MLB.com has a where'd it go? I thought they had a projected, they do have an ETA. They project everybody 1 through 7. Oh, no, that's not true. So they project Casey Mize with a start in 2020, Matt Manning arriving in 2020, Will Castro, Daz Cameron, and Jake Rogers all arriving to the majors.
So here, let me ask you this. Do you think that we see Casey Mize this year then? With the shortened season and a season that probably isn't going to do anything for the Detroit Tigers, does Casey Mize get at least one spot start?
Here's how Casey Mize gets a spot start, and I won't rule it out. An outbreak of COVID. It's not funny, but it's the truth. That's the scenario. Couple pitchers get it.
A couple of guys get sick and they go down.
That's the thing. Like, we don't have a baseball agreement, so we don't know what things are going to look like. There's probably not going to be a minor league season. Are they going to have expanded rosters? Could Casey Mize be on the major league roster by default because the rosters are so deep? Could he make an appearance out of the bullpen simply because it's a deep lineup? I don't really know. I think here's my prediction. 2020, throw it out the window. You will not care about a single Tigers game. 2021, there will be instances. Maybe I'm shooting too high, but whether it's a Matt Manning start, who maybe he's closer, he's been in the system longer, whether it's a Casey Mize start, whoever it is, there will be spot starts that you care about in 2021. By 2022, you will be invested in, let's say, a quarter of these games. I think we are 2 years away from being invested in enough Tigers games. Because here's the thing: at the end of the day, there's 162 games. You're not invested in 162, even if they're World Series contenders. If they're Super Bowl contenders, you're invested because somehow the baseball team is a better contender than your football team.
Is now playing
better
football.
than your football team, apparently. But if they're World Series contenders, you're still not invested in 162. I think the goal, the hope for me is by 2022, 2 years from now, that you can get me invested in 30 to 40 games.
I think that's a good estimation, but so like everything with COVID right now in this baseball season is so messy, right? Baseball had a chance to really solidify itself as a power, and they've just kind of screwed around, and now it's a complete embarrassment. With this season being so jacked up and us not really knowing how many games we're going to play and how these rosters are going to look, I look, as we kind of talk through this, I won't rule out that Casey Mize might be up this year and might get a start, but I'm going to say for myself to really get invested in when I say really invested, I mean, I want to watch at least half of these games. I'm going to say it's going to be 2022. That goes kind of back to where you were naming different guys. You were having 3 or 4 guys up in this lineup every single day, and they were contributing. And I think once we get to that point, that's when I'm going to be dialed in. That's when I'm going to start to really care about this team.
All right, moving along. Again, coming up, Stroz found an article about a team that went, what was their record again?
145 and
145 and 2. Hell of a year. I don't even know what sport it was. I don't care. You could be playing ping pong. 145 and 2. Worst team you've ever been on. We're going to be talking about that, the worst teams we've ever been on. But first, Stroz. Most people, let me tell you, you scroll through enough dating profiles and everybody wants to tell you how much they like taking hikes because everybody loves nature. Now, I don't consider myself a super major nature fan, but like I enjoy the water. I enjoy the mountains. Like, you know, I can appreciate some things. You hate nature.
I hate nature. I hate all of it. You know, I went on my baby in-state vacation and went up to St. Ignace. We did the practice squad from the weird hotel room that I was in.
Was it actually weird?
The hotel room? No, the hotel room was kind of nice, but it was like we had that weird drape in the back.
Standard hotel drape.
I don't know. I had like 2 queen size beds. I don't know. I only needed one. It's what it is. Whatever. Anyways, when I was up there, this is part of the reason why I also hate sleepy towns. I wanted to get around to this, but then we just started telling like drunken debauchery stories. I went and seen Tequamanon Falls, right? It's a waterfall here in the Upper Peninsula, and it was very, very pretty. It was very, very nice. So as I walk into this state park, and they've got different nature trails, as I walk into this state park, I all of a sudden start feeling different mosquitoes start to bite me. And I'm like, all right, cool, 1 or 2, no big deal. You smack them, you just kind of keep it moving. They're annoying. As I moved deeper and deeper into this state park, and by deeper and deeper into this state park, I mean I was maybe a football field's length into this state park. I was swarmed by mosquitoes. I looked like the dirt cloud that follows Pigpen around on Charlie Brown. Okay, I was swatting and swinging at these mosquitoes so hard I was out of breath. And I was only in the state park for like 2 minutes.
Yesterday, I cannot picture what that looks like. Like, I'm a bigger dude. You're in good shape. It's not hard for me to get out of breath. And I don't think I could swing at mosquitoes hard enough to get myself out of breath. Like,
they were on my face, they were on my arms, they were on my legs. I needed to have like 3 or 4 more hands just to kind of keep them swatted away. It was so bad. I had to leave the park.
Sprinted.
I had to leave the park, and I had to drive down the street to a rapey gas station to buy a bottle of bug spray. And when I say I covered myself in bug spray, I smelled like DEET and off for like 2 days.
You empty the can?
Yeah.
The entire can of bug spray.
It was, dude. Yeah. It I had like shoe prints because of like shoe prints and arm prints on the cement underneath me because I was holding my arm out and just spraying everything.
You weren't alone.
It was just
right?
like it would fall onto the ground. No, I wasn't alone.
Did she have the same trouble you did?
No. For some reason, the mosquitoes didn't bother her. But it gets worse.
Did they not bother her, or were, like when you say bother, were they leaving her alone, or she just didn't mind them?
They were, for the most part, leaving her alone. She wasn't bad at all. For some reason, they were attracted to me. I don't know.
Attracted person.
I've got sexy pheromone. They love me. So it gets worse though. It just gets incredibly worse. So I'm ate alive by mosquitoes initially. Put the bug spray on. I'm like, cool, we're good to go. I get in there and, you're bothered by the occasional mosquito. No big deal. At some point, go down this little trail, kind of jog off the beaten path, and you go down this, I don't know, there's like this weird little creek, and you can kind of walk over it, whatever. I go and do that. And as I do that, there's different foliage that's kind of laying in the way. Move it out of the way for her so she can kind of get around. Just trying to be a gentleman, just trying to be a regular dude, not thinking anything of it. Get back to the hotel room later on that night, and I'm like, man, I am itching all over. Like, those mosquitoes really, really got me. And I keep scratching, put some stuff on it, and I'm like, I should be good to go in probably 2 days. Usually when I get bit by mosquitoes, I itch for about 2 days. It has now been, 2 weeks? And just the other day, on Monday, I realized it wasn't mosquitoes. Instead, it was poison ivy. And I've got poison ivy up and down my right arm, up and down my left arm. I've got it across my chest. I've got it across my back. I had it on my legs. It's not on my legs anymore, thank goodness. But I scratched so much that I ripped everything open. And then when you touch yourself, it goes everywhere. I am so thankful I did not touch my wiener. Because
I should have known you were going.
My balls itch as it is. It would have been brutal. I hate nature. Nature sucks.
Now, Stroz, you are aware. You are aware.
Can we just live in a city and just be regular?
You are aware. There's a lot of nature that isn't poison ivy, right?
Oh, I get it. But the bugs come with it. The spiders come with it. And I'm not saying I'm afraid of bugs or spiders.
We talked a little bit yesterday.
But I don't like them.
You're like, I hate bugs. Does Stroz, if you're watching right now, well, look at this man. Listen to this man. Does this look like the face of a man who despises bugs and nature? It just doesn't. It doesn't fit you, man.
I get it. It's not my deal, man. So when I was a kid, my dad's like the most outdoorsy dude you'll ever meet. Me and my dad are like polar opposites. So he's like, oh, we're gonna go hunting. I'm gonna teach you how to go hunting. And I'm like, this sounds horrible. And he was like, no, it's great. We sit out in the woods. It's cold. You just kind of dress warm, and then you just shoot your bow and you kill a deer. And I'm like, this sounds god awful. What are we doing?
Have you done it? Did you enjoy it?
It was horrible. No. God, no. Like we killed the deer and then he made me skin it. It was pretty traumatic. It was pretty traumatic for me. It was horrible. My parents were divorced, so I don't know, maybe like 12, 13.
I wouldn't want to do that now. It doesn't appeal to me either. It seems more like something you'd be into. I would have never guessed you were so anti-nature.
Put me in front of a pool. Give me a pool bar, preferably. Let me drink. Let me sunbathe. Let me make friends.
So, again,
when I go on vacation, that's what I want to do. I do not want to go walking over creeks. I do not want to go walking in the woods. I do not want to play with the grass. I do not want to play with anything that nature wants to give me.
In just a few minutes, we're going to talk about the worst teams we've ever been a part of, and would love you to get involved as well. Before we do, though, I feel like we have to dive into it. And I'm sorry if you don't want to go there, you can say so, but we have to. I would be irresponsible not to do this. If you hate nature so much, why did you do this?
Get you closer to?
Would you do it again? How much do you hate nature is basically what I'm asking you.
So what you're asking is, do I hate nature enough to not have sex? I do not hate nature enough to not have sex.
I'm not asking you that. You're asking you that.
That is exactly what you're asking.
I just feel like, hold on, Stroz. Like, hear me out here. It would be irresponsible of me to let you explain how much you hated nature and not ask the question, why the hell did you do this? You know yourself. This isn't a learning experience for you. You didn't just find out you hate nature. Sure. So I just felt like
I've known I've hated nature since I was 10. It's okay.
I knew exactly where that conversation was going to go, but I didn't feel like I had a choice. I felt like I had to ask those questions.
B, I did it for the vagina. That is why I did it. And I would do it again for the vag.
Thankfully, now we can move on. I told you I'm going to let you lead this. Tell us about this team that went 149-2.
You know, this is a team that is located pretty much in our backyard. This team is called the Battle Creek. What is it? The Rumble Bumble? The Battle Creek Rumblebees. So this is a professional North American hockey team. They are part of the Federal Prospects Hockey League. which represents apparently the lowest rung of
It is
professional hockey in the
so
U.S.
incredible how many. Like, I don't think you truly realize how many levels there are of professional sports unless you go looking for them.
I didn't even know this league
No,
existed.
why would you? These people, they have to be paid like Stroz. There's no way they're not making a living doing this.
Like, you can't.
They're
You
probably
have to
being
have
paid
a side
minimum wage.
job.
No, you have to have a primary job. I doubt that this is paying. This is probably not even paying. And by the way, I'm not hating on them. If anybody will pay you to play sports, I do not care what you make. I will take minimum wage to play for your basketball team tomorrow. So, like, good on them. But, like, there are so many levels of professional sports that you would never have guessed existed.
So in this league, you apparently play 48 games, or at least they played 48 games this season. They went 1-45-2, and it wasn't like they forfeited 47 games, right? No. This team sat there and lost 45 games. They gave up. This is like a mind-blowing stat. What they gave up as far as their goals are. They were outscored 304-94. They had a goal differential of minus 210. They had two guys who had double-digit points this season, double-digit goals this season, I'm sorry. And this was a team that regularly gave up 6 goals per game while only scoring 2 themselves.
You know what's
They were absolutely horrible.
You know what's the funniest thing about this is the fact that they're professional. Like, and we're gonna get into the teams that we've been a part of, but like I've played on some horrible like rec teams, school teams, like that stuff happened. But like this is a professional team, and just think about this. Like I never had this conversation because I'm not a hockey guy, but like all of us have that conversation from time to time, right? Like, how many points could you score if you played a full basketball game in the NBA? How many would have, like, you have those questions. Mm-hmm. Could you catch that pass in the NFL? This is a professional team. This team pays people to play hockey for them. And this is how it goes for them. This is how much worse they are than their opponents. And this is like 77 levels below the NHL. If you think you could do anything in professional sports, or at the highest level of professional sports, and I've been guilty of it, this is a big F you. This is a big, no, you can't shut your mouth. Because even people who are getting paid to play at this level are getting smacked in the face 45 times a season. Just think about that. Like, think about every time you've ever thought, I could do that about anything in professional sports, and realize, like, this is how far you really are.
Dude, one of their leading scorers had 12 goals and 18 assists on the season. So 30 points in 48 games. Like, this team was the epitome of what struggle bus is, which leads us to this. What is the worst team you've ever been a part of, and what happened that season? Because I've been a part of, like you,
I got many.
A bunch of craptastic teams.
I got many of them. You go first. Give me your favorite terrible team story.
So I was playing hockey, and my team won only 2 games in our season. 2 games. And it was one of those seasons where we were constantly trying to figure things out. Like, if you are ever playing a sport and you start off and you're like 0-10 before you get your first win, you're like, what are we doing here? And you're trying everything to figure this out. We won 2 games that season, 2 games during the regular season. This was a league where everybody makes the playoffs. You're basically playing like a round robin to get seeded for the playoffs. So we were trying everything, throwing everything at the wall. We ended up winning our final 2 games of the season before we went into the playoffs. We ended up catching fire in the playoffs. We ended up winning the championship after only winning 2 games in the regular season.
That's not a terrible story.
Yeah.
That's a ragtag group of underdogs.
Dude, it was it was the worst. It was like the worst regular season you've ever been a part of.
Like, you weren't that much worse than everybody. Let me share a similar one.
Oh no, we were horrible. There was like there's a mercy rule in this league, and we got mercied like 4 times.
And this was basketball, hockey.
No, that was hockey.
Okay, mine's basketball, and I have many of these. Where I grew up, rec basketball ended, I believe, after I think junior year of high school was the last year that the league, the rec basketball leagues existed. And so there was something called the senior league. Kind of funny, but literally all it was is basically a group of seniors who started their own league, and it became pretty common. Like, every year people played in the senior league. It wasn't a part of the same, like, I grew up in Sterling Heights. It was Sterling Heights rec basketball. Senior league was not a part of that. It was a separate basketball league for seniors. Now, you could be in it at a younger age, but it was 4 seniors. My junior year, a bunch of my sophomore friends decided to create a senior league team. Things didn't go well. Same situation. So the way this league worked, I want to say there were 9 teams. I don't remember. All I remember is it was an odd number, and everybody made the playoffs. But the 8 and 9 seed had to play a play-in game to play the 1 seed right afterwards. And I remember we went winless in the season, so we were the 9 seed. And I remember going into that 8-9 seed game, we're like, look, like it's an advantage. Like we get ourselves, like we get that win, we get rolling, like we're hot. Like the other team's coming in cold, like we're coming in hot. Let me tell you, when you're a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-olds, that's not the way it works. Especially when you're not good at basketball, because if you were, you'd be playing for the school. We won. We won the first game. Very tightly contested game. And then we went up against the team of all the senior football players. I've told the story about Carl Davis, the 6'5", 350-pound NFL defensive tackle that I guarded. Mm-hmm. He was on that team. I'm 5'9", so I was 6 inches shorter. Back then, I probably was about 250 pounds, so about 100 pounds smaller. And like, let's be clear, he went on to play football in Iowa and then was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. It wasn't 350 pounds of fat. So we lost every game in the regular season, get our hopes up with a tight win over the 8 seed, and just get smacked in the face. I mean, I think we lost by 35. And I remember, like,
one day,
like, Stroz, this is probably the most believable thing I'll ever tell you about me. I'm super down to be the worst team. Like, I want to win, but like, I have no trouble getting myself, like, you hear athletes say, like, Nick Foles said the Bears have the best quarterback room in the league. Like, you hear athletes say that stuff, and you probably go, there's no way you believe that. I can't fool myself into believing, like, I didn't fool myself into believing we were the best team in the league, but I absolutely, like, 100% went into that 9-1 seed matchup believing we could win. That's the honest truth. You could not.
How did you get yourself so hyped up? And what the emotional come down? What was the emotional come down?
I think it was almost comical, right? Like I said, I didn't convince myself we were the best team in the league. I just convinced myself we were capable of winning. And so when we lost by 35, 40 points, like, it wasn't like, man, we're better than that team. It was like, that's what happened when we played them in the regular season.
So when I was a kid, I was like, what, 8th grade. When I was in 8th grade, we played a school. I went to a Catholic school as a young child, so I was part of the CYO in the Detroit area, and we played a team called Eastside Vicariates. And Eastside Vicariates was, I don't know, like every guy on this basketball team he looked like he was a college player. Like, we all thought that they were either in high school or college because they were like 6'5". They were built. They were muscular. Most of them had facial hair and armpit hair. And we're like these little frumpy fat white kids from Hamtramck. And whenever we would go play Eastside Vicariates, they would just steamroll us. And when I was a kid, they had a rule. There was like a press rule where I think once you were up by double digits, you couldn't full court press anymore. So within 90 seconds, they were up 12-0. And it didn't stop. We would get the ball past half court because they couldn't come up and press us anymore. So they would allow us to cross half court. The moment we crossed half court, they would just steal the ball and run back down the court. We ended up losing a game to this team 67-7. It was unreal. And like, by halftime, they were putting in their second string, and their second string was still running a train on us.
I can't remember off the top of my head, like, blowouts where we couldn't even score in any sport. Baseball, I was lucky. I played baseball. I played on so many baseball teams. At times, there were years I played on 3 baseball teams. And I feel like the vast majority of my baseball seasons went really well. I won 2 different, like, rec championships in baseball. Went to probably another 3 or 4. Baseball, everything, I pretty much always played on good teams. Basketball, kind of a mixed bag. I do remember when I was young. And here's the thing. I've kind of talked about this before. I was like in terrible shape, so I couldn't play basketball on a school team, but I was really good for rec basketball. I remember being on a team that went 0-10, but I was really good friend with the coach's kid. And the way rec basketball worked, the coach could keep one player. So he kept his kid, obviously, and then he kept me. And I remember that year we went 1-9, and they were planning on keeping me again, and I asked them not to. Because like I was pretty good at basketball for a rec kid, and like I just 1 and 19 was good. Like I was up for it the second year, but after that I was not up for it again. The only other major one that comes to mind. So where I went to junior high, it was 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, all in one school. Not 6th, 7th, 8th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah.
So 7th grade I played football. We went winless. 8th grade I skipped, but they went winless. 9th grade, after the school, and it was 6 games in the regular season. After they went 0-12 in the first 12 games, we won last second in the first game of the season on what we called a bounce pass. All it was the quarterback threw it back to the receiver, but the receiver was behind him. So then the receiver then throws the pass deep down the field to, I don't know if it was a quarterback or who it was. We went on a trick play, like as time expired. We went 0-8 the rest of the way.
You've been a part of a lot of horrible teams, B.
Yeah. I mean, I played a lot of sports. Like I played in my childhood. I bet you I played on 15 basketball teams, 2 football teams, probably 6 or 7 soccer teams, and baseball. Man, I probably played on 25 baseball. That's an exaggeration, but I probably played on 20 baseball teams. I played a lot of baseball.
Every baseball team I've ever played on was not good. And you guys can let us know your horror stories at Adam R. STROZ and at Brendan Riley _ on Twitter. Just message us. Like, we love reading these things. It's fantastic when you guys interact with us and tell us what you've got going on.
We've been moving around the time of this show so much lately. And the problem is today we intended to be 6:30, but that got thrown off even just because technical difficulties. The broadcast, as far as the screen, it actually worked out a little better than I thought, but it's still been a mess. I think. No, I mean
it's calmed itself down. It was kind of crazy there through the second segment.
I think the plan is going to be. I'm so sorry I can't commit this. I think the plan for the live is going to be 6:30 for the foreseeable future. At some point, I will be getting another job, and that could throw a wrench into things. I promise you, eventually we will have a permanent date for this. The time for the foreseeable future is 6:30. If you don't catch it live, obviously you know how to catch us on the podcast, and we will listen. We are happy to interact with you post show as well at Brendan Riley _ at Adam R. Stroz. Other than that, I don't think I got anything. I think kind of wrapping it up here.
Yeah, I think 6:30 for the foreseeable future will be good. I know once everything kind of gets going here and my job opens back up, like I'm back at work, but we're not open. It'll probably change, and you've got different things going on with work, so it'll probably change again. And then who the hell really knows? But yeah, for right now, foreseeable future. Pencils in 6:30 on Thursday nights.
All right, that's going to do it. Thanks for joining us, whether it was live or on the podcast after the fact. We'll see you again next